Oh, because then it'll kill it. I think this actually ends the game. Yeah, all he did was give us more. Yeah, GG. We found the way! He literally just gave us another Anthem effect. He just gave us another Anthem effect. Yeah, GG. I can't believe we won that. Well, he definitely got lucky. He whiffed pretty hard since he didn't find a Heimerdinger. Hey everyone, Raptor Spank here. Today we have On the Grind, the show where I cover a deck I'm playing in Ranked. I'll go over the deck quickly as well as review a couple of flex spots. Then I'll put the deck through a few games and give a brief wrap up. Let's start with the champion package. We have 3 copies of Zed, a 3-cost 3/2 with quick attack, and whenever he attacks, he summons an attacking living shadow with his stats. He levels up when my shadows or I have struck the Nexus twice, and then he becomes a 4/3, and his living shadows gain his keywords as well as his stats. His champion spell is Shadow Shift, where he recalls an ally and summons a living shadow in their place. He's extremely aggressive, one of the most aggressive champions in fact, as he's 3 mana for essentially 6 damage. He basically forces a response from your opponent. He provides the fastest possible win, so your opponent has to kill him. And he just clears blockers away when your opponent can't kill him, since they have to block him, or he levels up and it just gets even more out of control, and eventually your opponent will run out of blockers. Next up we have the Follower package. This starts with 3 copies of Navori Blade Scout, a 1-cost 2/1. When summoned, gain Elusive for the round. This is the most powerful 1-drop in the deck. With 2 power, it can force a lot of damage through early, and it's a great Conspirator enabler / Wayfinder payoff. And even when we're not on the offensive with it, we can use it as a good panic elusive blocker, since it'll have elusive the turn it comes down. If we're really worried about something our opponent has that's elusive, we could throw a Blade Scout in its way if we don't want to lose our more important units. Next up, we have 3 copies of Omenhawk, the 1-cost 1/1. When you summon an Omenhawk, grant the top 2 allies in your deck +1/+1. This is one of the best defensive 1-drops, since it comes out on turn 1, and then we can block basically anything our opponent has, and for the most part, we don't really care if Omenhawk lives or dies. It's also just a great chump blocker for anything our opponent has, since we don't care as much about our Omenhawks. And it is a great enabler for Conspirators, since we can bounce it to our hand and play it again to keep buffing more things. Basically, its buff of +1/+1, while small, is extremely good for Piltover and Zon-based removal matchups. Stuff like the Ezreal decks or Vimer Control. Things where our opponent is going to try to kill our units with mostly damage-based removal. The extra 1 toughness can be a big deal in surviving their removal. And in addition, it just makes our threats bigger and puts a faster clock on our opponent. Next up, we have 3 copies of Green Glade Duo, 2-cost 2/1 elusive. When you summon an ally, give me +1/+0 this round. This is definitely our most powerful 2-drop, with the 2 power, but even more so when we can play multiple things a turn, or say play a Wayfinder that creates multiple things a turn. This card quickly puts out a ton of damage. The biggest downside being that it's extremely easy to kill Green Glade Duo with only 1 health. We definitely want to hit it with Omenhawk so that it survives a little bit easier, but in general, it is our highest damage output, but it's our highest risk, highest reward card. Next up, we have 3 copies of Keeper of Mass, the 2-cost 2/3. Summon, give other allies +1/+0 this round. This is basically in the deck for a massive damage swing / 1-turn kill. It comes down and pumps a ton of things, and our deck tends to be extremely go wide with a lot of small, hard to block creatures. So this should force through a lot of damage for very little mana. The problem with Keeper of Mask is it is reliant on having a strong board presence, and it's pretty useless on its own as just a 2/3 with no keywords. It's not going to really be a threat by itself, and in general, it's not going to do much if you just play it into one other creature. So this is something you definitely want to establish a board presence before playing whenever possible. Next up, we have 3 copies of Navori Conspirator, a 2-cost 2/2 elusive. To play me, recall an ally. This is a pretty decent body / threat, since it survives a lot of early removal, like, say, Vile Feast, and it lives through Withering Wail. And it lets you double dip with creatures with strong ETB effects, things like the Omenhawks or the Wayfinders. The problem is you do have to bounce an ally to play him, so if you don't have a 1-drop, then you can't play him on turn 2. Or if you lose your 1-drop, you can't play him on turn 2. So this can be pretty important to keep in mind if you're deciding whether to block or not with your Omen Hawk. Next up, we have 1 copy of Navori Highwayman, a 2-cost 1/2 summon. When you summon him, summon a Navori Brigand with my stats. This is basically extremely useful for going wide with blockers or attackers, but generally speaking, I prefer this card for aggro matchups where you're going to need to put out a few blockers pretty quickly, and with 2 toughness, it can be good against some of the overwhelm threats like Ballista, and it benefits pretty heavily from Omen Hawk since it creates 2 units with whatever stats it has. So if Omen Hawk hits Navori Highwayman, it'll be an even bigger body and you'll get 2 of them, which is great. Next up we have 3 copies of Shadow Assassin, a 3-cost 2/2 elusive. It's another pretty decent body slash threat, similar to the Conspirator, but the big difference here is that it cantrips when you play it. In other words, it gives you a card in your hand when you play it, as soon as you summon it. So it also benefits pretty decently from bounce effects like Conspirator, since you can keep drawing more and more cards off of it. Next up we have 1 copy of Kinku Lifeblade, a 4-cost 2/2 elusive and lifesteal. This is just another decent body like the last 2, but on the plus side we have life gain as well, so it can be very good for aggro matchups to break the symmetry by gaining you that little bit of health back. You should be able to run them down faster than they can run you down. Next up we have 3 copies of Kinku Wayfinder, 4-cost 2/3, and if you have Allegiance, i.e. the next card on the top of your deck is Ionia, summon 2 1-cost allies from your deck. This is a phenomenal go-wide for blocking aggro. It's even better than the Highwayman, but obviously it comes down slower, so that's the bigger problem. But it puts up basically 3 blockers, and since you have only 6 non-Ionian cards in your deck, you should almost always hit Allegiance. And this can also be used to set up a crazy Green Glade turn. If your opponent doesn't have an answer to Green Glade Duo, playing this will give it +3/+0 from both the Wayfinder entering and the 2 1-cost allies. And then finally, we have 2 copies of Windfarer Hatchling, 7-cost 4/2 elusive, and when you summon it, grant all other allies +2/+2 this round. This is our penultimate finisher. It provides usually a massive 1-turn kill where our opponent just cannot block enough things, and if they're really heavy on, say, Piltover removal, the +2 to health on all of our units will make it extraordinarily hard for our opponent to deal with all of our threats, or even enough of our threats. And even just on the flip side, it has a decent body on its own. A 4/2 elusive unit is hard to block and provides a lot of damage through. Next up, we have the spells package. This starts with 1 copy of Elixir of Iron, a 1-cost burst spell. Give an ally +0/+2 this round. This is our cheapest and easiest save against removal, and it's very easy to bank enough mana to keep this up and threaten it at all times since it only costs 1 mana. And 2 health is usually enough to get us past a lot of removal that will be turned on our units, from 3 damage from a grasp or a mystic shot, get excited, etc. This can be pretty vital for keeping our units alive and forcing more damage through to our opponents. Next up, we have 3 copies of Twin Disciplines, a 3-cost burst spell. Grant an ally +3/+0 or +0/+3 this round. This is one of our most reliable saves, since we have the full playset of them, but in general, since it gives 3 health, it can get us by basically any damage-based removal, aside from like Thermogenic Blast, because it's equal to however much damage we'll be taking from things, because, say, Elixir can save a Conspirator from Grasp, but it won't save a Green Glade Duo. This will save anything from Grasp, anything from Get Excited, and then our opponent needs to have either multiples, or they're just out of luck, and that's the ideal thing. This is also extremely flexible because it doesn't have to be used to pump our own health. It can be used to pump our damage, which can be really good if we're just that tiny bit short of killing our opponent, or say if we're presenting lethal and our opponent deals with one of our threats, this can pump the next one to kill them still, and it can be used with, say, Zed to create a really big clock on our opponent, since if we banked, say, the first 3 turns and then played a Zed and then pumped it and swung, that would still be 14 damage on turn 3. Or, not 14, 12 damage on turn 3, which is pretty incredible. So this is one of our our most flexible pump spells. Next up, we have 2 copies of Concussive Palm, a 4-cost fast spell, stun an enemy, and summon a Tail of Dragon. Tail of Dragon is a 3/2, and if it is ever recalled to hand, it becomes a Concussive Palm. This is a strong defensive option that gives a sizable blocker, so we can deal with anything big our opponent has that otherwise is too hard for us to deal with. It's also extremely effective at stopping challengers from killing our elusive units, since that's one of the best answers to what our deck is trying to do. And it gives us a 3 power blocker, which can block fearsome units and trade with most threats our opponents can put out. So that is good. And then in addition, any bounce effects we have, such as Conspirator, can give us more defensive options by bouncing this back to hand, which then becomes another Concussive Palm, and we can stun a unit again. Next up, we have 1 copy of Deny, a 4-cost fast spell. Stop a fast, slow, or skill. This is an answer to major threats, especially board wipes. Ruination is one of the scariest things we could deal with, so this can stop that and prevent it, as well as it could be used against things like Vengeance, it could be used against Will of Ionia, it could be used against even something as simple as a Grasp, just to deny the health to our opponent. It's basically just a catch-all for all problematic spells that can really mess up what our deck's trying to do. Next up, we have 2 copies of Fury of the North, a 4-cost burst spell, grant an ally +4/+4 this round. This is also extremely flexible since it can be used defensively or aggressively. It does cost 1 more than Twin Disciplines, but it's extremely good when we're attacking, since our opponent will then try to kill our unit, and not only will they be unable to kill our unit, they're going to take 4 more damage on top of it. It's extremely good for just really shutting down what our opponent is trying to do to answer us, and it's the most powerful pump spell in our deck. Finally, we have 3 copies of Will of Ionia, a 4-cost fast spell, recall a unit. This is arguably one of the most powerful removal in the game, but in general is the most powerful for our deck, since it deals with any threat our opponent could have. It could be a tough unit that we can't kill otherwise. They could be an unyielding spirited unit that we now bounce to hand. They lose their buff, they lose their unit. It's great for us, and it can also be used to answer some of the more threatening things. Say our opponent plays a Dehu Endure and then tries to fling it at us, we can bounce it to their hand in response. It's just a great way to buy time in order for our deck to close it out. And if we have to, we can always bounce our own units with this to either benefit from the ETB effects or just save them from being killed. It's especially good for, say, a Windfarer Hatchling to bounce it back to our hand, then replay it the next turn. Finally, we have our flex spots. There's a number of different things you could do. You can cut down on, say, Will of Ionias or Concussive Palms in order to add more denies if you're facing a lot of control matchups where board wipes are a problem. You can always go up to a 3rd Windfarer's Hatchling, probably by dropping the Lifeblade. You can drop Fury of the North for elixirs, or you could drop an elixir for the last Fury of the North. You can include more Lifeblades, but only if you add 3 Jeweled Protectors, which is a 5-cost 4/4. When you play it, grant an ally in hand +3/+3. It's very slow, but it does still have a very good body, and the pump is extremely good, especially against PZ-based removal, and basically it makes the Lifeblade threatening enough and also fast enough that we can run the full playset. Otherwise, Lifeblade is a bit slow for the current meta, so if we are going to go up it, we want to go up 3 Jeweled Protectors, and we'd basically have to do this by cutting all of the palms plus the Highwayman, and then we would have to cut something else for Lifeblade, whether that's, something like one of the other flyers, or maybe some of the more spells, like a Will of Ionia, or something like that, if you're looking for a little more Lifeblade, a little more life gain. Otherwise, probably the most obvious choice is to cut Kinku Lifeblade for a 1 of Solitary Monk, which is 3 cost 4/3 elusive, and when you summon it, recall all your other allies. This is easily the most efficient elusive, since it's 4 damage for 3 mana, and with 3 health, it's extremely hard for your opponent to kill it, since they have to have one of the 3 damage dealing spells, and if you have one of your saves, then that's out the window too for them. And it can let you double dip again into your ETB effects by bouncing stuff like Shadow Assassin, Omen Hawks, etc., and getting all their benefits again. But the big problem with Solitary Monk is that it can be a real loss of board control, which can be very bad, especially in, say, aggro matchups. So it's really a personal choice whether you want Solitary Monk or Lifeblade, but that's one of the big things to keep in mind. Another option is to replace the Concussive Palms with 2 of Spirit's Refuge, or like a 1 of Deny, 1 of Spirit's Refuge, but it's a 4-cost burst spell, give an ally barrier and lifesteal this round. It's another great answer for aggro matchups, and it can be used to negate removal too if you're a removal heavy matchup, but the life gain can buy you a lot of time. So the big reason to include this card would be if you're really concerned about other aggro decks. Another option is 3 of Shared Spoils, 2-cost burst spell. This kind of has to replace your Elixirs and Furies, or maybe your Omen Hawks, but if you replace the Omen Hawks, then Wayfinder gets worse, so really this has to replace the burst spells from Freljord, because you don't want to go above 6 Freljord cards, or else you're really risking your Wayfinder whiffing, and that can be completely disastrous for the deck. So you have to replace basically the Elixir and the 2 Furies to play this, but it grants the top 3 units in your deck +1/+1, and if you've triggered Plunder, you get to draw 1 of those units. This is great against PZ-based removal again, for the same reason as Omen Hawk. It buffs your units past Piltover removal, and it can also make your smaller elusives really threatening on their own. And it's great card advantage for control matchups. So this is extremely good if you're facing a lot of control decks and they're burning through all of your cards and you're running out. This will keep you drawing units, and your units will be able to survive removal better because of the fact that they're buffing, but it's not quite the same as having the pump spells. And this card does feel extremely bad without Plunder, and it's kind of expensive to hold the 2 mana for this spell, since basically it doesn't do a whole lot on its own. It can get you a big swing in the future, but its immediate value is extremely low, and so that makes it very hard to keep the tempo up while still casting this spell. And then finally we have 1 copy of Battle Fury, 8-cost burst. You would replace the Elixir of Iron with this, most likely, or you could replace a Fury of the North. You don't want more than 1 of this card, but it grants an ally +8/+4. It's great for surprise kills. It can also get you past removal. The buff is permanent, so you don't have to worry about it being used only offensively to kill your opponent right then and there, since you can use it defensively and then still have those buffs for the next turn. And it's basically the penultimate pump spell that this deck can run. The problem being that 8 cost is extremely hard to run. It makes for really bad mulligans, but it can win you some games that otherwise you would lose, and it'll really catch players off guard. So let's take the deck into some matches and see how we do. Alright, looks like we're against Corvina Control. Haven't actually played this matchup on this season yet, so this ought to be interesting. The key here is to get some good pump spells. Oh wow, that's like the best one. I don't think I want this Keeper of Mask though, but then again, keeping 2 spells and an Omen Hawk and then nothing else here, that's risky business. But this Keeper of Mask is not great with what I've got going on here. But I think Fury of the North might be too good to pass up on. Elixir's great. I'm gonna ship it like this. Okay, that's not too bad. Obviously, we're starting on this Omen Hawk, because Navori Blade Scout on the draw is just bad for a turn 1. I can't remember if Corvina plays Hapless Aristocrat at the moment. I feel like they don't. But I'm not really up on the list as much. Oh, they do. Alright. I'm not as up on the list in Season 3 as I was on the previous 2. I did see a decent bit of this the other day, but I was playing Weimar Control at the time, so I haven't actually played the Elusive matchup. Not the best draw here, but we're gonna run out this Blade Scout, hit him in the air for a little bit. This Kinku Wayfinder should help a bit, because even if this isn't threatening on its own, or the things it pulls is threatening, the bright side is we'll pull more garbage cards, quote unquote, out of our deck. Oh, that's phenomenal. I think we're willing to trade at this point. Yeah, we'll toss an Omen Hawk away here. It's tempting to toss like Blade Scout, but The question is whether we run this Green Glade out. I think we do. Because it'll live through whatever removal our opponent has because of Elixir of Iron. So if he tries to grasp it, we're fine. If he does Withering Wail, we're definitely fine. The big problem is if he grasps, it still goes down to... Okay, that's not too bad. He could have a Get Excited, though, or a Gotcha, something like that. But then we burn 2 removal out of his hand, so that's fine. So we're probably going to run this Wayfinder out regardless. Let's see, he might actually just kill this. Okay, yeah, so she's just dead. We're definitely going to Wayfinder, still. The reason I ran the Green Glade out there was that that sets me up to Wayfinder this turn for a ton of damage if he doesn't have an answer. How likely is he to have an answer to that? It's got to be Get Excited or Gotcha. But then again, we're not really going to have a better time to play Zed. Like, this is about the best possible time. So let's just see if he has a Thermogenic or a Get Excited. Or double Mystic Shot. Sad Poro tells me he probably has removal. Maybe not.
Do not deny me.
And we'll do this. If he has removal, that's really bad on his part. I attacked with everything here, because, like, worst case scenario, he blocks here. Okay, Static Shock, that's not too bad. I mean, this gets Zed within Mystic Shot range again, but we're still fine with this. And since he's out of mana, that means we'll have Fury of the North available. Which means we're also probably not playing this Kinku Wayfinder. We will play Shadow Assassin, though. Oh, wow. Alright. Let's see what happens. I can't remember how this deck runs. Okay, for that, we'll just... Yeah, we'll twin Disciplines here. I don't think Corvina runs a ton or any Vengeances. I bet they're running maybe one or two. So I think we're just gonna Fury of the North set here and swing. Tempting to run out Keeper of Mass, but we're much better off just doing this. Wow, that's actually lethal. I mean, he probably has, like, Grasp or something, or Withering Wail. But we're in great shape, though, because if he does that, we level up our Zed. Or is he... There's no way he has nothing. If he's on, like... Well, if he has Mystic Shot, he can kill Shadow Assassin, and he lives. Get Excited, same thing. Withering Wail, he lives, because of the healing. Grasp, he lives. Vengeance, obvious. Well, he can't cast Vengeance. I forgot about that. I wasn't doing that. Oh, wow. All right. GG. And that's the power of Elusives. Is the new version with Fury of the North can just win out of nowhere. I'm surprised that worked. I can't believe he didn't have any way to deal with it. I had a feeling the matchup would go that way, though. Alright, so Nivea Braum Control. This is still an interesting deck. I've only played it once so far, and I did win that game. Again, this is another one where Pump Spell is pretty powerful. And for that reason, I think we'll actually keep all of this. Like, Omen Hawk is great because it gets my stuff past his removal very quickly. This Green Glade's almost certainly going to die, but at least it'll burn some of his removal. So I think we'll keep this. This will probably get Vile Feasted, but that happens. The biggest downside here is that we don't get to attack the turn Kinku comes down. I suppose maybe we go Lifeblade into Kinku then, but we'll see what we go with. No Hapless Aristocrat, that's good for us. This deck usually runs Hapless Aristocrat. Oh. Well, that's a better. You know what? I think since we don't have a turn 3, we're not going to play this Green Glade. By banking this mana, next turn we can play Green Glade and TD it. Oh. That's also really good. Let's see what he goes for. Do we want to run out Navori Blade Scout? If we do it, then shields are down for this Green Glade, but it's still... It's more damage than Green Glade, so I think we just run it out. They probably kill Greenglade, but we still get net damage out of it. Because he still would have healed regardless. I suppose if he had Avalanche, that would have been the most brutal thing. So I guess I probably should have played around Avalanche. Okay, Withering Wail? Yeah. That's bad, but not too bad. Yeah, that's about what we expected. And at least we burned his mana out. The big thing is we don't have a blocker for this. I mean, we could block with Blade Scout, but we're not very likely to. I think we'll play the Shadow Assassin so we can bank the full TD. And then the real question is if we want to go on Life Blade or Wayfinder. Okay, well, we're not going to bank mana. We're going to let him pull this, and then we're going to kill his Braum. There's nothing he can do because he's burned out of mana, so now he won't get the Poro, and he'll lose his Braum, so this is really good for us. And then we still get this Shadow Assassin this turn. 5 mana on the next play, so we'll probably run this Wayfinder out. Ooh, Fury of the North is pretty good. Huh. Decisions. I think we're going to go with Wayfinder. With only 5 mana, there's not a lot of great things he can do. I mean, he's probably going to chump block here. Withering Wail would be, yeah, that's the best thing he could play here, because it'll kill both of these. But we still got our Omen Hawk buff, so I'm not really caring. And we'll kill this Hapless Aristocrat too. Get it down to just a spider. We're burning through a lot of our opponent's removal at the very least. Hopefully he doesn't kill this Shadow Assassin right away, and we can bounce it with Conspirator and play it again. Okay, that's what we wanted. Because now it'll live through a Withering Wail, and we get to draw a card. So that's basically the perfect ideal here. Chances are we're playing another Wayfinder next turn. Which I think we can do that and have Fury of the North up. Ooh, that could be good if he plays a Braum. Though if he plays Braum right now, that kind of sucks, but all of our creatures live through that. That's not too scary unless he does have Avalanche in his deck. That would suck. I'm trying to remember how many Avalanches this deck usually runs. I think I run the full playset in mine, but okay. Maybe he's setting up a Withering Wail? Or does he have the double Vile Feast? Okay. The only annoying thing here is that he's full healed every single turn. So that's really bad for us that we've gotten this far into the game, up to 7 mana, and we haven't actually damaged our opponent. That's our biggest concern right now. Ooh, that's kind of convenient. Yeah, we're just going to play this Wayfinder.
Eyes open. Watch your branches.
Okay, cool. We did hit again, so that's good. We're just trying to go wide here. I could, like, Concussive Palm one of his blockers and create another attacker. We're probably not going to do that unless he runs out, like, a Braum. If he runs out an Anivia, we bounce it. And maybe even Braum we'd want to bounce at that point, too. Yeah, he's really thinking it through. Though I suppose we could kill a Braum. So maybe that's the best answer of all. Yeah, he's definitely thinking this one through.
Return to us.
Do we want to kill the Braum? I think we probably do. So we'll swing with both of these? Maybe we just... Yeah, we'll swing with everything.
Such naivete.
Okay, perfect. He fell for our trap. Alright. We'll kill the Braum. Kill the Braum. Wayfinder lives. He was smart, though, and he blocked the buff Wayfinder. So this will go back to a 2-3, whereas if it was the other one he blocked, it would have gone back to a 3-4. So that definitely would have been good for us, but... He played smart. Ooh, that's a good thing to be Omen Hawk buffed. We're in pretty decent shape at this point. There's a lot of good plays for us now. I mean, our perfect ideal would be for him to, like, tap that much mana for, like, an Anivia. We definitely want... Oh, okay, there it is. The problem... So, like, ideally we want to go into the next turn and play this Windfarers. But the big problem with that is that then he can board wipe us. That's weird. He must have another rekindler then.
I will be reborn.
Oh, he's going for that. Right, the egg. I'm stupid. Don't mind me. I didn't say anything. The question is, do we want to play Highwayman or do we want to... Oh, we will trade with this. If he swings that, we will trade with it. In a heartbeat.
My friend and I are toll collectors.
So he could play Windfarer, and if he board wipes, it kills a Nivea. Though he has so many ways to get it back, that seems unlikely to be great for us. They do usually only run one Ruination. If we swing now, he'll block 4 damage, and we get 6 through. I think we just, like, where this board state has gone, we're kind of in bad shape. So I think we just run out of Windfarers and hope he doesn't have it. I mean, he has a lot of potential great plays here. Like, Vengeance killing one of our flyers is pretty big for him. Layering multiple removal probably won't work. Okay. So he has a bunch of blockers. The question is whether we tap down one of his blockers. If we do that, he can still block everything? Yeah, I think we're just swinging with everything.
Strike quickly.
Because he's got to block most of these. Or all of them. Well, if he doesn't block all of them, then he risks me having a pump spell and killing him. We'll see how much he's willing to risk.
I protect this place.
Yeah, pretty much all of our stuff live at this point. He's going to get back both Anivias next turn, which is definitely scary because they're going to be enlightened Anivias. So we have to just hope he doesn't attack with everything right off the bat. Yeah, that's definitely something we'll elixir. I suppose that might have been a waste, but it doesn't actually save from an outright attack with the Anivia, with the elixirs on any of our things, so... Let's see what he does this turn.
A new era.
We're definitely in bad shape, though. I actually think this matchup's pretty favored for us, but he had the good creature setup. Alright, so we're gonna lose everything here. So the question is, I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. Since we're gonna lose everything, we're just gonna block.
You call that
Take as little damage as possible and then play as many creatures as we can. We're definitely in bad shape, though. That's the most important thing to take from this, is that it's almost impossible to come back from this. We're going to lead on Lifeblade because I think we'd rather keep the Zed, though with their toughness at 5, maybe not. We are going to need a little bit of luck to win from this position. I mean, I suppose if we hit, like, Windfarers and he has nothing. Alright, well, there's a Vengeance. That's fine, though, because Zed actually wasn't going to get through. So he really should have Vengeanced the Lifeblade. Unless he thinks the Lifeblade won't get through, which is possible, but... And that's not awful, but it's pretty bad. He has plenty of answers to this, so...
What will you have?
Yeah, this game is almost certainly over at this point. He probably wins on the next attack, even. Like, he's gonna border wipe us, and then we have nothing in hand. So we need to go, like, runner, like Shadow Assassin. Which seems extremely unlikely, so... So yeah, this game just got away from us. We weren't fast enough.
For my homeland.
So I can, like, double stun. Honestly, it's not worth it. Because if I stun, they'll die to these triggers too. So it doesn't give us creatures. And I mean, these are all ground creatures, so that does nothing for us. This is what makes the Anivia deck look like something higher than B tier. The problem is it also has plenty of games where it does nothing. Alright, yeah, that's game. With only concussive palms and deny, there's nothing we could do at this point. Oh well. Just lost control of the game. Didn't have enough early aggression. Alright, Deep Monsters. I think this matchup's pretty good for us, as long as we don't troll it. Pump spells can be particularly good. Will of Ionia is extremely good. Alright, so normally speaking, I don't want to keep Conspirator without anything to bounce, and I think that's probably where we're at here. Zed's also not good, though, when we're going to be coming down on, like, turn 3 and attacking on turn 4. I think I might actually pitch everything except Twin Disciplines here. We're definitely pitching Windfarers. With nothing to bounce for Conspirator, this could just be a dead card in my hand. It's unlikely, but it's very possible, and it's happened to me a handful of times. The question is, if we pitch this many things, can we pitch the Zed? Alright, I think we'll keep the Zed and we'll try it. It's very possible for this to be a dead card into this matchup, though. This is some good pickups, though. Good chance we just spend the next turn swinging with Omen Hawk. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We are not willing to fight over that. Not under any circumstances. The fact that he wasted a Vile Feast on an Omen Hawk when he's at full health is pretty good for us. Like, that's ideal. I think we're gonna run the Zed out into this board state. There's a couple of plays he could make that would be good for him. That is the best one. See, that's what we were most worried about. Thorny Toad gums this up a bit. The question is whether it's worth TD and swing. I don't think it is. I think we'll just run out this Shadow Assassin.
My life for the Order.
He can't kill either of these things, so we're in pretty good shape. Since he ran out the Maokai, we might actually want to swing with this Zed, just as like a sort of surprise attack.
I have many faces.
We're willing to take 1 damage here. Yeah. That's fine. We got Thorny Toad down to a low amount. The real question is whether we care enough to fight over that. I think we actually don't. His board state's really bad for a Zed, so I think we're fine just keeping this Elixir to save Shadow Assassin. He's almost certainly going to try to pull and kill this next turn, so... We're just baiting him into wasting cards. Zed's definitely not ideal into this. Like, we just want to go over the top. Alright, so we don't want to run out this Shadow Assassin, because we don't want to waste too many pump spells. Because if we play Shadow Assassin, he pulls the 2 with this, and then he pulls the other one with that. Alright, so we're just gonna pump this. Keep it alive. It'll go to 2 health, but that's fine. That's a perfectly good margin. And we take 3 damage, which is irrelevant in most cases in this matchup. We get another good flyer. Oh, another Omen Hawk. That actually kind of sucks, because like we don't really want our Omen Hawk eating its own buff, but it is what it is. I mean, the nice thing is we can swing with this Omen Hawk. Oh, we're definitely going to play this. Double Omen Hawk buffed Keeper of Mass is actually pretty solid. This'll die to whatever it blocks. He doesn't realize that yet, but I think we don't swing with these now because of the sapling. This Maokai is kind of getting close to a bad spot. Alright, so he'll probably block here. Now the question is whether we use TD or if we use Elixir. Yeah, I think we're fine with Elixir here. How close is he to deep? Yeah, we're fine with Elixir here. I get him down to 15. We are getting a little bit into the territory of sketchy, but we do have this Windfarer's hatchling. Is it possible for him to get too deep? I think it is. Okay, that's fine. Not going to, though. He's getting close, though. Maokai's getting close to leveling, too. The good thing is we already have a Windfarer's. Ooh, that's also really good. We could chump block for days with these, so... Alright. That's the sketchiest part about what just happened. Oh, he's deep now? Yikes.
The order rewards.
We have a lot of flyers, though. We're gonna be at 8 mana, so bouncing this actually isn't worth much. So we'll just pump this to keep it alive. We'll pitch this, I guess. Chump one of these, not the Thorny Toad, because we don't want him to heal. We won't block with any of these, because we want them to be at max toughness. The question is whether we play this Navori Conspirator. Because we kind of want to keep Fury of the North available. But using Windfarer, the big removal he has is going to be Grasp, which we don't need Fury of for. The Windfarer alone will get us past that. Man, that's so close. Alright, it's a lot of damage. Let's see what he has. I guess the big thing we're scared of is Devourer of the Depths. He might have that. I don't know if he's actually lost any. Okay, that's not scary at all. Since everything we have flies. Whoa! Well, there goes all of his Devourers, pretty much. I mean, if he has Nautilus in hand, that's fine, because he'll get these back. But I think he actually just dies this turn at this point. Yeah, I think he's just dead. I don't think he can gain enough life. Yeah, that's GG. Like, I'm trying to think here. Like, he can't Riptide plus gain life. Yeah, GG. Alright. Yeah, that matchup's pretty good for us. We're pretty aggressive. He can't block, so his lifestealer's not that relevant. It's just whether we stumble enough, and we didn't. Alright, BPZ Ezreal. This is a pretty bad matchup. They have a lot of great removal for us, and since they're very, very fast, it's very hard for us to compete with them. And once they have the Steal Our Cards package, we're basically done from that point on. I'm actually tempted to pitch this Green Glade because they have so much great removal for it. Like, it's going to be harder for them to kill the Shadow Assassin. We want to keep a pump spell. It's very hard for them to kill this. If they waste a Thermogenic on Blade Scout, we're okay with that. So, we'll keep this. A pump spell plus a decent 3-drop. Alright, well, if the game's just going to keep giving us Green Glade, I guess we're gonna probably play it next turn. It really depends on what our opponent does next turn. Because if they just bank mana, we're not playing this Green Glade. It's just going to make it rained. Okay, that I'm not concerned about then.
Everything's better with company.
Says you.
I think we just go to combat and swing here. I think that's our best play. We'll drag the barrel over here. Because we can always pump our Green Glade to keep it alive. 3 damage? That's the real question. He could have a Make It Rains. Like, Make It Rain. That's the big question, is how concerned are we of Make It Rain? Honestly, I think we go for this. If he has Make It Rain, that sucks. Because that will kill everything. I guess he doesn't have it. Alright. That must mean he doesn't have one, because that's, like, guaranteed you use it there. I think we probably just play this.
Extra hands never hurt.
I mean, we go shields down with mana. So, I mean, Twisted Fate will be, yeah, brutal. I guess we should have kept this Will of Ionia open. Yeah, that was dumb. That was incredibly stupid. I played into that hard.
He's smiling.
Yeah, we'll let the hit. Wow. That was embarrassingly bad. All right, what do we want to do here? How? I mean, he's not gonna get a level up here, so
The dark beckons.
that's not a bad find. All right, what plunder payoff does he have? Black market merchant. Okay, that's fine. He is drawing his way there. That's our big concern. I think we're just gonna bounce Wayfinder. I can't believe I played into that Twisted Fate. That's my biggest mistake into this deck, is I always play into the Twisted Fate. Like, they do nothing, I'm like, alright, I'll play this Wayfinder. So that was a big mistake on my part, but this is still one of the better games I've had. The problem with bouncing this Twisted Fate is that I'm basically enabling him to do a ton of damage to us. But I can't really let him draw more cards, is the problem here. Now the question is whether I want to trade with things. I don't think I do. Now, do we bounce this Twisted Fate? Okay, now we have to bounce him. That's enough card draw that we're in trouble if I... Okay, yeah. Yeah, get out of here. What is he at even? 6 of 8? I suppose if he had another Pilfered Goods, he flips right then.
Here's with me.
So we're probably going to play Wayfinder. But he's just going to TF again.
First step's the hardest.
Since we have this Elixir of Iron, we're less messed up to what he tries to pull here. The question is whether we go straight to combat here. I don't think that's really beneficial for us.
Kneel, students. Rise, warriors.
He's gonna play TF, and he's gonna deal 1 to everything. But, like, we know that's coming. So we just have to decide what we want to save. Oh, that's, yeah, that's a different play. Not really what we were expecting.
Strike quickly.
If we do this. Basically, we force him to trade his flyers. And we're okay taking that trade. We can't save any of our stuff, so it just happens. Like I said, this matchup's really brutally bad for us. Playing into TF definitely screwed us, but it's not like that would have changed the outcome that much. Like, we're still incredibly unfavored. Oh, block here. Block here, block there. I think he's setting up a Riptide Rex here. And unfortunately, we can't stop the Plunder trigger. So it just kind of is what it is.
Looking for a daring escape.
I'm expecting Riptide Rex here, which will drop us to 1 health and then Warning Shots lethal.
Heal me in.
Okay. That's definitely not the worst thing that could have happened. We'll be on 9 mana, which means we can play one of these plus Windfarers. I mean, I guess that's our best play. We probably play Windfarers, then Keeper of Mass. Things are definitely not ideal for us going into the next round, though. How much damage can we even do in the air here? So that'd be like 6 plus 5? 6 plus 5, so that's 11, which is still not enough. Okay, so we're... Oh wait, no. So we can swing with Keeper of Mass next turn. I'm trying to think about how we do this. I guess we play one now.
See the world
Because our idea is we want to swing for lethal, so our opponent has to block, and then we can try a Twin Disciplines cheese, essentially. Our opponent probably has so many answers, though, like Warning Shot plus Riptide. Yep. That's exactly what we were talking about. Alright, so that would kill everything. So we have 2 targeting that, 2 targeting that. I don't think there's any way to win, right? Because we can save one of these, then play another Keeper of the Mask. But that doesn't really matter. Because that's still not lethal, and he swings for lethal next turn. So that's just game. Like I said, it's a really bad matchup. You don't want VPZ Ezreal. It's about the worst thing you can encounter while playing IF Elusives. Alright, Vimer Control. This is also not a great matchup for the deck. It really depends on what they have. We definitely want pump spells. Man, this hand is bad. This hand's really bad. I'm tempted to pitch all of this. Like, Will of Ionia can be good, but you really don't want to count on being the control deck in this matchup. The only thing worth possibly keeping is Fury of the North to keep my stuff alive. I think we'll do that. We'll pitch the other 3, though. Like, these aren't necessarily bad cards in the matchup, but, like, we have to be fast in this matchup. Yeah, this is basically doomed. Our hand is so bad that, like, we're getting to things so slowly. Yeah, this is bad. This is real bad. Like, honestly, this is the worst possible case scenario.
Let none disturb my meditation.
Yeah, I think we're really just bounce Solitary Monk and swing. See if he has removal. We wanted Fury of the North, but like at this point, then it still is just like a we cast 4-cost spell, he kills our thing in response. Yeah, we knew this was coming. This game is doomed. Like maybe we get there, maybe his hand's garbage, but like this game is doomed. There's no winning. Like we just got screwed by luck so badly. Like our opening hand was completely garbage, and everything we've drawn since is also garbage.
Tread lightly, strike hard.
It's not worth blocking because we can't kill his thing. We'll just lose ours, and we have to win by board control, which is why we're so doomed. This is less bad since we have TD, but if you like Thermogenics, it's just yeah. This is so bad. Oh man, you hate to see it. It happens every so often.
The dark beckons.
Alright, that's not that bad. Yeah, I guess we just swing.
Only the wood survive.
Best case scenario, he blocks here and then TDs, pumping toughness, so that it'll kill Zed, and then we pump its attack. I suppose he does it with this, yeah. So he doesn't lose the Solitary Monk. Oh, he's just gonna allow it. Alright, that's fine too. We're okay with that. So now, worst case scenario is he plays a Vi here. Heimerdinger's bad too. Yeah, like I said, this game's over. This game's so beyond over.
My life for the
Let's see. If we Fury of the North, he still dies. I guess we still Fury of the North because we wanna kill Vi. And this should do it. Unless he bounces it to our hand, which we're also fine with. We'll take the 4 damage, though. If we use TD here, he could have a removal spell, and then we get really blown out. So that's why we did what we did there. I mean, I suppose we're set up into a Windfarer turn, which there's a lot worse plays than that. Alright, well. I didn't want that anyways. Yeah, that's the real question is... Yeah, I guess we just win fairs. See what he plays. I mean, things are so bad for us, though, because he can block, kill one of these. He can Mystic Shot, kill one of those. Like, we're losing the aggro race here. That's the crazy part. And you can always pump the toughness to save his Solitary Monk, because he knows we can't pump our attack. And with a full grip of cards, yeah, this game is beyond over. We'll see how far we can get, though. And there's the pump spell. Oh, just a straight kill spell. Alright, well that's good for us then, because we still do kill this. Vi will kill our Shadow Assassin next turn. So we're basically... So next turn we're going to TD our Shadow Assassin to see if we can kill Vi. It probably won't work, but it's our best play.
I don't need a plan. Trouble coming at ya.
Just to try and prevent the Vi level up. I mean, I suppose if he fires a kill spell, we probably deny. I guess if he has a pump spell, it's just, yeah, it's doomed. Alright, that's not that bad. See what he goes for. Alright. Well, that's fine with me. I'll play this Omen Hawk. We're putting up way better of a fight than we had any right to, so we've got that going for us. I would love to say that this Kinko Wayfinder is good. Oh, wow.
Master.
But with 2 Navori Blade Scouts in hand, we're kind of in a bad spot for even this. Well, that's not bad.
First step's the hardest.
We can still play this with Deny up.
The dark
And there's definitely worse things than that. See what our opponent does.
order rewards its
Okay.
fate.
Yeah, we're just gonna swing.
Walk softly, strike quickly.
He's gonna block here and
You
here,
cannot
probably.
escape.
Or he might try to trade
It's
with
too
that.
late for you.
Oh, he's not gonna block Conspirator. That's weird. Does he have a kill spell and he thinks it'll go through? That's weird. That's just weird.
Shadow. Master.
Let's see what he does. I mean, the fact that he didn't even try to kill this. Okay, now he's gonna try to kill it. We will deny that though. That is our only deny though, so we're basically out it from here on out. TD's not bad. The fact that he's pulling for spells is pretty good for us. We're just gonna run out all of our creatures, including Blade Scouts at this point.
Quietly.
I think we've hit all of our Kinku Wayfinder. Oh, wow. I think we've hit all of our Kinku Wayfinder hits. Like, I think we've hit all of our 1-drops, so that's something to note, is that I don't believe Wayfinder from here on out will do anything. He doesn't have Claws of the Dragon. That was the biggest thing we were scared of. Best card here is Fury of the North off the top. That's what we want to see. Could have worse cards than that. That's lethal if he has nothing. Which is basically impossible with a full grip of cards. Like, the deck runs Will of Ionia, it runs Mystic Shot, it runs Get Excited. We're going to see multiples here. Will of Ionia is the best thing we could hope for. I mean, then we just get to recast those. So we'll probably bounce Omen Hawk and replay it. Especially since we haven't really hit too many creatures, so I think that'll be a stacked Omen Hawk buff. Yeah, I don't think Kinku Wayfinder finds anything. So we're actually just going to hold this. We've gotten pretty lucky so far.
I walk my path alone.
Okay, let's see what he does. He's probably going to swing. We're gonna palm it when he does. Oh,
Tread lightly, strike hard.
perfect. Hope he doesn't have a deny. If he does, it's still not end of the world, but he does. That's unfortunate. That's definitely unfortunate. But we burned it.
Extra hands never hurt.
Oh, we did have a Blade Scout. That's a little sad. That is one big keeper of masks.
Let young eyes see clearly.
Let's see what he's got. Not much by the looks of it. I mean, he could have another Spirit's Refuge. That's the, and if he does... So we put this last in the line, because that's what he wants to block the most. So we'll put that last in line, so if he does have healing... Multiple spells. Oh, because then it'll kill it. I think this actually ends the game. Yeah, all he did was give us more. Yeah, GG. We found the way! He literally just gave us another Anthem effect. He just gave us another Anthem effect.
Kneel, students. Rise, warriors.
Yeah, GG. I can't believe we won that. Well, he definitely got lucky. He whiffed pretty hard since he didn't find a Heimerdinger. And that's the worst thing for us. But he drew so many spells out of his deck and still didn't find it. But we'll take those. Well, looks like the mirror match. I was good at this in Season 1, but I haven't played it since, I think, since Season 1. So this ought to be interesting. Highwayman is bad in this matchup. I don't think we want the Shadow Assassin. It can be good. It can be good because drawing cards and keeping card advantage is pretty big in the matchup. Blade Scout's not great, but we can't pitch it. We'd rather have Omen Hawk. Omen Hawk plus Conspirator is our best find. Oh, it's so tempting to keep the Shadow Assassin, but since we're on the play, I think we want a more aggressive card. Those will work. They're not bad in this matchup. Ah, there we go. That's what we were hoping for. That was our perfect card. Let's see if he tries to trade with this. That's a trade we're willing to take. Okay, perfect. We're winning the race currently. Even though we have this Conspirator, we were willing to take that trade. Now we won't trade. Unless he, like, plays some big, like, some flyer that we want to kill. Because then we'll, like, Conspirator, bounce this, and then trade. See, this is pretty good. Oh, that's perfect. That's ideal. That's ideal. I mean, worst case scenario here, he has something like Elixir. He has Elixir of Iron plus something that can block our Zed. But we've put our opponent into a really bad spot here.
Today you are King Ku.
Alright, well, whiffed that turn's attack, but we're okay with that. We just wasted a Keeper of Masks trigger, pretty much. I mean, he could Conspirator, bounce it, replay it, but then he loses the Omen Hawk effect. Just all around pretty good for us.
Eyes open. Watch your branches.
Okay, so we need to win this quick. With a find like that, we definitely need to win this quickly. Now the real question is, what do we want to do? I think since we want to win quick, we want to play our flyers.
My life for the
That
order.
that helps. That helps with the quick win plan. Now the question is, do we block anything? Because we could block and use Elixir. The question is whether it's worth it, or if we'd rather save Elixir for on the attack. I think it is worth it. I think we'll do this. We'll kill one of his bigger threats, or force him to waste Elixir if he happens to have it.
Protect each other.
So next turn we're looking to Navori Blade Scout and then Keeper of Masks. We'll see what our opponent does. This Keeper of Masks is actually really good.
Quietly.
Courage masks the heart from
Because
fear.
now Zed can swing. I mean, he could have a pump spell, but if we're making him waste a pump spell, that's good for us. Now this can trade with any of these, but we're okay taking that trade. We're not going to swing with Keeper of Masks, I think, though. We want the blocker, especially since he has no flyers yet.
King Ku hold fast.
Alright, he probably has a pump spell then. If he's blocking like that, it means he has a pump spell. Yeah, that's fine. We lose our Zed, but we killed two of his things. We still forced this huge attack through. Really weird he didn't block with Blade Scout. That's a little nuts.
Into darkness.
I think we're in pretty good shape right now. I mean, this is sketchy here, but he only has 3 cards, and we have a bigger board. Plus, we have all of these really good cards. Like, Concussive Palm will buy us so much.
Follow my lead.
Alright, so, things we want to do here. We want to block here. We want to block here.
Defy and resist.
How likely are we to die here? Yeah, we can block one of these. That has us to 7. He lives through this. Yeah. We're not going to use any of our spells until we have to. And we want to force our opponent to react first. Alright, perfect. I think we're fine just passing.
Let none disturb my meditation.
It's tempting to bounce it, to be honest. How scared are we of him having a... So, the concern here is Will of Ionia. If we Windfarers, he can block. I think we're just going to ship it to him. It's tempting to also Concussive Palm just to put one more attacker out. And that might have actually been the right play. But we're going to... I think we're going to Windfarers here. And see what he does. Okay, one more blocker. That's fine.
As fate wills.
Okay, that has him dead. So he's going to try to bounce this one. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to pump this and see if he has another will. If he doesn't, he loses. I suppose he could run something weird like Spirit's Refuge, and then we're in trouble. But otherwise, we just win this. I think the better play, though, was last turn to have Concussive Palmed his Solitary Monk to put one more creature on the board. And then we still could have Windfarers. I think we still would have had max mana for this turn. So that was the better play, because then we would have had 2 attackers. Like, it still would have been lethal, so we would have had another answer right off the bat. So we did misplay there. We should have Concussive Palmed. Bouncing it wouldn't have been as good, because he could just replay the Solitary Monk. So the best play would have been to stun his creature or create the token. And then, like, worst case scenario, he denies it, but that means he loses a deny, and we burn through some of his extra mana. He can't possibly have an answer, otherwise he would have done it already. Like, he wouldn't be roping us. I think he just knows he's dead and just wanted to rope us for the end of it. I was like, whatever, I get it. Yeah, I think we can GG there. Yep, that's it. We'll win the mirror match. He had the Will of Ionia, but he didn't have both. So in review, we went 4-2 in our matchups. We had a couple of dicey matchups. Definitely got lucky in the Vimer Control matchup, particularly. And a little bit of a misplay in the IF Elusives mirror matchup, but we still got there. Surprisingly, so the deck does pretty well against very damage-based control decks like Corvina, and like Deep Monsters kind of control, kind of more of a mid-rangey strategy, but against decks like that, they're primarily damage-based and they're late-game control decks. We do pretty well because we have a lot of pump spells that get past our opponent's removal, but then we start to have issues in stuff like Anivia control, where they have plenty of board wipes, and then because of the challenger aspect of Braum, it's pretty easy for them to deal with our creatures, and Anivia herself is really good for wiping our whole board, because most of our creatures die to even a single Anivia trigger, let alone multiples. So we struggle in matchups like that. And then for BPZ Ezreal, we also really struggle in that matchup. I've played a couple off of these videos too, and I've lost most of them. The big problem being that since it's so aggressive, you have very little time to recover. And so you basically just have to kill your opponent super quickly and just hope they don't have enough. And to be fair, it was a huge misplay to play into the Twist of Fate like that. I definitely should have left the Will of Ionia up to bounce him at least, to prevent our opponent from getting much more than that, or just not played into it and lost everything like that. So that was a little unfortunate, or a little foolish of me. But it's still a really rough matchup. Even without that play, we still probably lose that because losing those creatures wasn't a huge deal. Because even if we play, say, the next turn, he still plays TF and wipes them all. So it's pretty much Wayfinder's not great in that matchup because it'll just get wiped out by a Twisted Fate. And they usually keep it into the matchup. So it's pretty hard to deal with something like that, and since they pressure your life total very quickly, you don't really have the time to kill them because they'll very quickly get to even the leveled up Ezreal, but even if they don't, their board presence will pressure you so much that's just very hard. And then like one keg plus Make It Rain kills basically anything you can play. It's just very, very difficult to line up against that deck, even with all the pump spells that you have. And then, other than that, we are pretty decent into, say, like, deep monsters feels like a really strong matchup. We can pressure them pretty quickly. They can't really block our stuff that well. They just have the one elusive unit per se. Basically, we just have to kill them before they get to Deep and Nautilus, but the deck's very capable of doing that. You just don't really want your on-the-ground threats like Zed. You'll really want elusives, particularly in that matchup. But just in general, the deck performs pretty well. It's a pretty straightforward aggro deck. The nice thing about the deck is that unlike something like, say, Burn, you're given a lot of different lines of play. Like, do you play the Wayfinder? Do you play something else? One tweak I've made to the deck is, like, I particularly like Lifeblade from the previous version of the deck, so I prefer it to Solitary Monk. Solitary Monk has a lot of benefits to having, like, the one of, it's still one of, but, like, obviously bouncing stuff like Conspirator can feel pretty bad, but then bouncing stuff like Omen Hawk feels great, Blade Scouts feel great, so there's benefits to each. I'm not 100% sold on Highwayman, but there's a lot of really good matchups for it. It helps you, especially in the burn matchup, by giving you a very low drop creature that can block their units, and if you hit it with like an Omen Hawk or something like that, it becomes super effective at blocking your opponent's stuff and surviving through several blocks. So it's very, very good in the burn matchup, particularly, or other aggro decks where your opponent's going large and wide. It's pretty helpful for that. So I can dig the one of on that. Fury of the North is a great card. The old version of the deck ran 3 Elixir of Irons, and there's a lot of really great moments for Elixir of Iron because there's a 1-cost pump spell to save your creature from removal. That could be really good against things like Corvina control, for example, but like Fury of the North can save your units and also is just a huge amount of pressure for your opponent's life total, so that card is a great addition to the deck. All in all, IF Elusives is one of my favorite decks. It's what I hit Masters the first time on. I was grinding it for beta season on my main account. I did a lot of PZN Ezreal and ID Elusives on my second account when I hit Masters in the first season, but IF Elusives has a special place in my heart for just being a fun aggro deck that lets you really think, because sometimes like playing to curve is not always the best because leaving up pump spells can be really important to actually getting damage through, whereas if you just play on curve, they play some like Withering Wail and just wipe out your whole board, and that sucks. But yeah, it's a fun aggro deck. I highly recommend it for people who want to have a pretty easy deck to do decent on that still has a pretty high ceiling for skill, since there are so many different lines of plays, but you could just play on curve and still win a fair amount of matchups and games. So it's pretty good for starting out, and just a fun deck. Zed's a really fun champion. I don't know what else to say about it. I love IF Elusives. It's a great deck. I've enjoyed it. I haven't played it as much the last season, but getting back to it's been really, really fun. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about it. I went with 6 games in this one so that we could get like a 50% matchup, like a deck with a 50% win rate or higher. And in this case, we ended up higher, but I think it might give a slightly better win rate for actually considering decks to use on ranked. I'm still in Platinum at the moment. I haven't had a lot of time to really grind it out, so I hope nobody minds being at the lower tier, but I just wanted to make some videos of just playing ranked and just all-inning a deck and give a good deck tech to give an idea for players of the basics of using decks. Hope you liked it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you want to see more of this. Let me know what kind of decks you might want to see for On the Grind, and have a good one.